So in this video, I'll give you a little snapshot as to what's happening with NVC right now, what is the current backlog for cases that are documented qualified to proceed for their visa interviews. Next, we have some new information also for non-immigrant visas, specifically for the e-visa, the investor visa. We have a lot of people that are watching these videos and they need the most up-to-date information about their e-visas, those people that apply for investor visas all over the world. So I'm going to provide you a little bit of update, what's happening with e-visas and where is the current backlog. We'll talk about this and what to expect in the next year when it comes to applying for the e-visas in consulates and embassies worldwide. Next, we'll talk about when can we actually get back to normal visa processing for immigrant visas and non-immigrant visas, and provide the timeline as to when embassies are going to start getting back to routine processing of visas worldwide. And finally, we'll talk about what can you do now under this current climate to either speed up your case, to get an interview earlier, or to try to enter the United States without a visa under special procedures. So make sure you watch this video until the end, because I've got some good information that you may benefit or be able to share with somebody that needs this information right now. So what are you waiting for? I'll see you on the other side. Hello everybody, and welcome back to our immigration channel. This is a place where you get the most up-to-date immigration news, immigration information, and everything else that you need to make your immigration journey less stressful. My name is Jacob Sapochnik, and I'm an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California, and I help clients in all 50 states. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and also give us a big like so YouTube will be able to share this video with more people just like you. So let's talk about visa backlog. The COVID-19 pandemic has created one of the worst visa backlogs in immigration history. Both on the immigrant visa side and the non-immigrant visa side, the backlog is so severe that the State Department estimates that they're not going to be able to clear this backlog even by the end of 2022. Since March of 2020, embassies and consulates worldwide have been essentially working on a very limited capacity, more than a year. And so, as a result, visa interviews are continue to be canceled, continue to be rescheduled, and in many posts are actually not available at all. And from the comments I get on this channel from you, many of you are stressed, many of you are concerned, many of you are worried, when are you going to get your immigrant visa interviews? And also, those of you that are inside the United States are worried to go back home to apply for their visas because you're worried that you're going to be stuck at the US Embassy and not be able to come back to the United States. These are all valid concerns. Unless the Biden administration will come up with an immediate solution now, many families are going to be stuck in this backlog for over a year, and who knows if that's even going to be resolved by the end of 2022. Therefore, a solution is needed right now. So let's talk about the most up-to-date information from the National Visa Center about the current visa backlog as has been reported in early May. The National Visa Center recently reported an increase of more than 800% in pending applications sitting at the NVC waiting for interviews. Can you imagine what it's going to take to overcome that backlog of 800% increase in applications just sitting and waiting to be released for interviews? As of early April, 494,000 applications are sitting pending at the National Visa Center. 494,000 applications are sitting and waiting at NVC. This is compared to 60,000 applications that were pending at the same time in 2019. This is insane. They don't have the staffing or the capacity to handle such backlog, and we can see it increasing every single day. And you want to know how many of these applications were scheduled for an interview in April? Out of all these 494,000 pending, only 18,000 applications were moved from the NVC to different embassies to be scheduled for interviews. 18,000 out of 494,000. This is not even a drop in the bucket. And out of these 18,000 applications that were sent for interviews, quite a few of them are actually expedited requests that were taken outside of the normal wait lines because they qualified for national interest exceptions and therefore were able to be sent to the different embassies for interviews. So as you can see, the situation is still quite difficult when it comes to immigrant visa interview processing. Cases are still stuck in NVC and not much is leaving to be able to go to the embassy to be scheduled. As I mentioned in previous videos, The NVC is now used as a warehousing facility in a way. They're not able to send cases to the embassies unless the embassies actually open slots for them to be able to take them. And therefore, so little cases are being released because many of these embassies don't have the capacity to take on those cases. Again, I'll mention it later on in this video what you can actually do while we're waiting for the State Department to take action and open more slots and open more embassies. There are some things you can do, and I'll mention that in a few minutes. For the moment, it is important for you to be aware as to where we stand. Huge backlog of almost 500,000 cases are sitting pending in NVC, and less than 20,000 of those are being scheduled interview in the past month. Let's see what happens in May. Moving forward to June, I'll be able to get those numbers for you next month and provide an even more detailed update. So let's move on to non-immigrant visas, specifically the e-visa category that's been significantly impacted by this backlog and the embassy's inability to provide interviews on a consistent basis. E-1 visas are visas that are issued for treaty traders, people that come here to engage in trade, whether you sell something. If you have at least 50% or more trade with the United States, you qualify for the E1 visa. The E2 visa is a visa that is issued for investors. If you come to the United States and you invest a substantial amount to start your business, you're qualified for the E2 visa. Both E1 and E2 visas have been significantly impacted by the recent backlogs at all embassies around the world. According to the State Department, 48,000 e-visas were issued in fiscal year 2019, the year before COVID hit. In 2020, only 22,000 E2 visas were issued worldwide, less than 50% from the previous year, which is really significant for people that are coming to the United States to start businesses and employ U.S. citizens. These are jobs that we are losing here because the State Department is not able to issue visas for immigrants that are coming here to create jobs. This is crazy. While many U.S. embassies and consulates are backlogged and not able to issue visas properly, there are a few embassies around the world that are leading by example and are able to clear some of their backlogs and process non-immigrant visas, specifically e-visas, almost like before the pandemic. Those two posts are the U.S. consulate in Osaka, Japan, and the U.S. Embassy in Seoul, Korea. Those two posts were still able to function despite the restrictions of the pandemic and were able to issue almost as many e-visas as before the pandemic. And this is because they were able to increase their staffing and find more facilities within their embassies to make space for these interviews to be able to issue those e-visas because they know how important they are. On the other hand, the U.S. Embassy in London issued less than 14% of e-visas compared to what they've done the year before the pandemic. This embassy was definitely shut down most of the year, and even when they reopened slowly, it happened in a very limited capacity. They were not able to issue those interviews to as many applicants as they should have. We definitely clearly see that Europe has been impacted because of the lockdowns over there. Let's take a look at some of the statistics from these embassies. The embassies in Frankfurt, Madrid, Paris, Rome, and London issued less than half of these e-visas compared to the same period in 2019. Once again, it's because of their limited capacities. The worst embassies to consider when issuing those e-visas during the pandemic are Sao Paulo in Brazil, less than 2% compared to the previous year before the pandemic. Bogota, Colombia, less than 2% compared to the previous year before the pandemic. Istanbul, Buenos Aires, and Dublin, less than 6% compared to the previous year before the pandemic. And finally, Calgary in Canada, less than 26% as before the pandemic. And Monterrey, Mexico, less than 30% as compared to before the pandemic. So once again, as I mentioned before, every embassy has their own procedures to reopening, and therefore these numbers vary from post to post. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, under the most recent prioritization of visas, under the new system of prioritization of visa appointments, embassies will give priority to non-immigrant visas depending on urgent needs and other factors. As I mentioned before, there is a whole 4-tier system of immigrant visa prioritization, and after that they will decide which non-immigrant visas will be able to get priority based on urgent needs only. So when can we expect things to get back to normal? Based on what I mentioned to you earlier in this video, it may take more than a year for embassies and consulates around the world to clear this backlog. Probably even closer to 2 years, if you think about it. The resumption of routine visa services is currently happening on a post-by-post basis. And again, this is because of the different country conditions and the different COVID rules in the different countries. For example, countries like the UK and Israel that are leading the way with their vaccination efforts are most likely going to see their posts reopen much faster as opposed to other countries like India, for example, where the global pandemic is getting out of control. So bear in mind that this is going to be a factor as well in your country as to when they're going to reopen and how they're going to reopen. So what can you do now to face this crisis and try to get your visa interview scheduled sooner? There's a few tools we can follow. First of all, there's a way to request an interview waiver in certain cases, specifically for non-immigrant visas. On March 11th, the State Department expanded its policy to allow interview waivers for certain non-immigrant visas, specifically for people that apply for non-immigrant visas in the same category if their visa is going to expire within the next 48 months, and this is good until December 31st, 2021. So again, in some cases, you can request an interview visa waiver for non-immigrant visa, and this way you can bypass the wait time to get your visa reissued. The second thing you can do, and this is one of the things that we do a lot in our law firm, is try to request an expedited based on a national interest exception. Now, the national interest exception can apply to a lot of people. It's important to understand the facts of your case and discuss this with an attorney that understands how to do those cases, but we've been very successful to get those expedited requests in many consulates and embassies worldwide. And until this backlog is going to be cleared, meaning for the next year, the expedited option is still a good option. And if you do need help with your case, don't forget to text me right here, 619-483-4549. I'm here to help you with your case. It is important to understand that every case is different, every embassy is different, but it is important to take action and not just sit and wait. Another option, which is not a very common option, but it is possible, request a visa waiver from Customs and Border Protection. Under Section 212(d)(4) of the Immigration and Nationality Act, a person can ask for a visa waiver from a CBP port of entry due to an unforeseen emergency. Again, it's a very limited exception, but it is possible. This request can be filed in advance with the port of entry using Form I-943. Again, a very limited exception, but it is possible. Third option, if you're inside the United States, continue to extend your status. If it's a non-immigrant visa that you're on, if it's a work visa, if you're applying for adjustment of status, if you have that option, do it inside the United States. As many things as you can do from inside the United States within the law, do it. Don't travel abroad right now because you don't know when and how you're going to be able to come back. Finally, if you tried everything, you tried to expedite, they refuse, you tried the congressman's office assistance to push your case, you can always sue the government using a writ of mandamus to force them to act. Again, these are extreme situations, but it is possible to sue them. And you know right now, quite a few of these embassies like Moscow and Manila are being sued right now, and the State Department is being sued. So litigation is an option. It is important to understand if you qualify, but there is hope. So hopefully the information in this video was helpful. I really try my best to gather all this information from all the different sources and put it in one concise video for your benefit. If you have questions, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a comment below. It really makes me happy to hear from you, and a lot of these consultations that I do with you guys, you give me some kind feedback, and I appreciate all of you. And again, if you need help with your case, text me, 619-483-4549. I'm here for you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to give us a big like, and I'll see you in our next video.